For 500 years, every ship that has borne the name of the Enterprise has become a legend. This one is here too. Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship review series without access to a proper table. Yes, I did forget my intro for a second there, but it's okay. Tom Paris approves. Yes, the Enterprise XCV-330. One of my first Eaglemoss models. It would have been in the first batch, maybe even. I love this ship. Who doesn't love this ship? I mean, it's classic appearances in a painting in the motion picture, a painting in Enterprise, and I think there was also in a deleted scene is that same painting in Enterprise. But who doesn't love the XCV-330? Celebrating experimental warp drives because of Prodigy. Look, it's really hard to theme these reviews around Prodigy. Now, before we begin, and actually this is a bit of a different speech, I have to say this poor XCV-330 has been abused. I'll get into the sturdiness or fragility of the model as we go on, but quite frankly, it's been abused, and it's all my fault. You'll notice up here, this has broken, and this is broken off several times, and been re-glued several times. There's a chip on the front of here that in relation to it falling down. The stand, both of the bottom bits have broken off. One of them has been lost. The other, I think, is just sitting in the box for the XCV-330. It currently sits on its stand like this, just barely. It used to sit on its stand like this, and this is the angle it'll be at if you buy it. I'm pretty sure, yes, each of these rings you can kind of see has popped off just a little bit. If I wanted to, I could completely disassemble this thing beyond what, like, the original pieces it came in the factory. Basically, as I said, this was in the original batch of Eaglemoss ships for me. I know that because in my old room, I had them displaying on the edge of a shelf that I'd kind of walk past, basically, getting out of bed every day. And so it stuck out like this, because it was behind my 3D printer. And I would constantly walk into this. I really should have moved it, knocked it off, bring the whole thing down. It would land like this, get abused. It actually did that several times, like 3 or 4 times before it finally snapped off up there. So, like, that's actually pretty impressive. And, like, the stand would break. God, it was awful. Then finally, my famous little, I say famous, my amazing complete Enterprise lineage wall, my thumbnail banner, right? You'd think it wouldn't fall off there on that TV stand, but the power button to that TV is actually behind this model. And so I would be very careful, but sometimes I would go and hit the power button and then knock this ship off. And yeah, this poor ship has been abused and glued back together. Surprisingly durable for how many times it fell, but just look at this thing. Like, it will break if you drop it enough times. And nowadays, by the way, before you get so concerned, I have this remote next to my computer, so I can turn on the TV with a remote and never have to go near this ship. It's still in a good enough condition to review it. I've debated replacing it so many times, but just bear in mind, those ugly spots I've pointed out, and even the angle, the droopiness, that is not the model. That is because I'm an idiot, and this is one of my poor abused starships I really should have packed away long before I did. But it's an Enterprise, so hey, I didn't. And now, before we begin, I have to do my usual spiel to say that I am part of the Eaglemoss affiliate program, which means that if you choose to buy this model because of this video, there is a link in the description. That is an affiliate link, which means I will get a 7% commission on the sale of the model, and while I can say whatever the heck I want about these models, there is a monetary incentive for me to tell you to go buy this model, so keep that in mind as you hear my reviews. But hey, I can't change the way the Starship looks. I mean, I can. I've abused the heck out of this ship, but I can't make it look better. Isn't that right, Tom Paris? Aren't you glad this ship is so big we've had to zoom out the camera so you can fit in the frame? Because yes, this was a very hard ship to get size comparisons for. As you can see, it's massive. Lengthwise, it's actually not too absurd. You know, there are ships bigger than it. There are a lot of ships smaller than it. It is on the long side. But because of this massive ring and how space inefficient the design is, it's probably got to be one of the biggest ships just in terms of, like, how big of a box would you need to fill it? It's got to be one of the biggest Eaglemoss has ever done, and yeah, I'm happy they went for such a big scale, because in order to get the ring a sensible size, it'd need to be like that long or something. But to be a bit more specific, the Bird of Prey, Klingon Bird of Prey XL, which always swoops in to save the day, actually no pun intended, but I wish it was. The wingspan is longer than the XCV-330, but honestly, this was about the closest I could do lengthwise. There just isn't a lot to compete with this model. Over in the World of the Universe collection, the Zhang He, not the two-song, but the Zhang He, which has the nacelles that look like this, I'm pretty sure the other version would also work with those type nacelles, is just about the closest length comparison you can get. So as you can see, it's not actually as long as it looks. It's just the ring adds so much size and volume to it. Like, I'd love it if the Borg cube was kind of this XL size. Maybe not this long, but, you know, that huge square. That's why I'm really looking forward to it. And finally, in Discovery World, the shuttlecraft was about the closest I could come. It's actually a pretty close length thing. They're almost exact. And I didn't prepare any models for the ring, but you can see here, Samsung Galaxy S9. So, you know, probably a pretty standard phone size. You've also got these mugs, quote-unquote normal mugs. You can actually buy these mugs. I might see if I can link them in the description with my face and my partner's face on them. But I happen to know that these are the only two mugs in the world like this. But it's a standard size mug, and so you can see that's about what the ring is next to a mug. Meanwhile, Tom Paris over here, it's a smaller plate, it's not a dinner plate. But that ring is about the size of the inner golden circle, maybe. So yeah, quite a big ring. But anyway, back to the ship in question here. It's a very small ship in Star Trek world. Like, you can kind of see the windows here. It's incredibly small, even with the ring. But sort of a Starfleet warp experiment with Vulcan ring warp tech. This middle bit, the bit that breaks off, is entirely metal. Everything else is plastic, and I don't know how you could have done it any other way. As you can see, it does support itself, though. Like, is the stand, you can't hold it from the bottom. I get a little bit nervous because of how abused this model is, but even with the glue and, like, the horrible condition of that joint, it still holds up really well. And as I said, this fell, like, 3 or 4 times before it actually snapped off, and all the weight is in this big middle section. I'm amazed it didn't break sooner. On the sides, you can see reflecting in my film light, all this silver and gold paint is a metallic-y paint. It's reflective, and it looks very nice, even in normal lighting conditions. This joint is actually very pristine, in pristine condition. I'm pretty sure that joint was a little bit better. Maybe not. As I said, it is broken. It was glued, like I can't just pop it out right now if I want, but this does come glued, like you can't do that normally. In fact, I think I intentionally broke those to get the glue for the bad one. But you can see this is kind of what it'll look like out of the factory. Very nice and pristine and unabused. You've got your pretty simple but accurate registration, USS Enterprise XCV-330. Also on the bottom of the saucer section, habitat section. It's kind of just the section. You've got the same style registry. This inside metal bit is really good. Might be hard to get some of the angles I need. But you can see it's got little logo, also with shiny, the same shiny gold painting that's on the rims, it looks like. The engine detail is very nice. You know, you got all the coloring, you've got the gold paint, the green paint. Like, that's, some might say that gold engine paint, that's kind of unnecessary detail, but it's detail that should be there, and it really holds the model together. I've also just seen this back bit is in horrible condition. I'd suspect that's a effect of me dropping it so many times. Probably not what it looks like out of the box. You can see it's a lot neater on this side and towards the bottom. And in fact, I can even push it in a little bit. So it probably is neater than that, but I expect there would be a seam. On the other side, though, I literally have not seen this side of the model in like 4 years, so maybe not the most important thing, but that's why it's so impressive. There's a lot of detail in there. If we bring our attention to the front section, as I've said, there's not a whole lot of detail on the Starship, but the model has got all that's there. You know, the red circle, your bump. It's a very complicated shape, nicely molded. Even a little deflector dish, really simple, but obviously a deflector dish on there. I kind of wish maybe the front had something like a viewing platform, but the actual ship doesn't have that, and Eaglemoss isn't really in the habit of just inventing starships. Klingon space stations, that's another matter, but starships, they don't just invent. Windowing is off on this side looking at it. Actually, it's better on this side, but it is also off. You've got some very fine detailing on this bottom, we'll call it the deflector dish section. You can see there's grating and also windowing under the grating. I'm not sure, let me get a closer look. I'm not sure if that's a misaligned window or it's supposed to look like that. I actually think it looks better like this if it is misaligned, but it is just nice little detailing all over this habitat station section. I don't know. And you've also got nice grating detail over there by that inner fin. So yeah, pretty simplistic ship. And I don't think Eaglemoss invented detail for this. I think they took probably renderings that had been made before. And actually that Enterprise painting was pretty well detailed. Of course, not a ship we ever actually see. Only kind of, actually I think it does maybe have an appearance in Into Darkness. It might be in part of that beautiful little Starship lineage line on the Admiral's desk. Editing Nathan here, and yes, it is in fact in the Into Darkness lineage line. And thank God past me remember that, so I've been sitting here going, man, the comment section are just gonna tell me how I forgot to list that appearance. But yeah, it's a beloved, obscure ship, which Eaglemoss always does pretty good with those obscure ships. And it's huge. I mean, I don't know what more you could want from a model of the XCV-330. Maybe for it to be less abused, but my advice to you is if you buy this model, don't put it hanging like 5 inches over a walkway at arm height. You might think it'd be fine, but just don't give yourself any opportunity to knock this thing on the ground. And yeah, with that, I hope that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and this ship, and you don't judge me too harshly for the abuse this model has gone through. It is my most abused model, by far. But if you have any questions about this model, just ask me below. If you want me to review a specific Starship, just ask. If I own it, I'll get around to it as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time!